Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. So our research talk makes us travel to Indonesia on this occasion. And we have the pleasure to welcome Professor Gregoria Arum Yudarwati from University Atma, Jaya, Yogyakarta. Professor Gregoria will introduce us to appreciative inquiry, both as a research and as an engagement method with communities. Appreciative inquiry is part of the family of action research approaches, and for this reason constitutes both a research methodology and a change paradigm. Appreciative inquiry, which may be defined as a strength-based approach focused on the aspects that are right and are already working within a given group, may be applied to many areas of knowledge, including community engagement. Our guest speaker has more than 25 years of academic experience, both domestically and internationally. She currently lectures at the Communications Department, Faculty of Social and Political Sciences of University Atma Jaya, Yogyakarta. She has specialized in corporate social responsibility, public relations, strategic and sustainability communication, and has conducted numerous research and assessment processes in all these fields. Most of her research projects have been funded and acknowledged by international institutions. Professor Gregoria holds a Ph.D. in communications from the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology in Australia and a Master of Marketing Communication from the University of Canberra, also in Australia. Her organizational experience includes serving as a member of the global affiliates of the Center for Global Public Relations at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, the International Public Relations Association, and the International Communication Association. She has also served as an executive board member on the Public Relations Association of Indonesia's Yogyakarta chapter. So, Professor Gregoria, thank you so much for having accepted our invitation as a guest speaker. We are really honored to have you with us today. It's really a honor for us. And of course, I would like to greet well all our friends from, University Atma Jaya Yogyakarta, including also the newly appointed rector, right? And
yes, thank you.
Yes, Gregoria, I really appreciate that you could find the time to be with us today. And I think that, well, you can start your presentation if you are ready. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Dr. Alam. It is a great pleasure for me to be here as a representative from one Catholic university in Indonesia, Universitas Atma Jaya Yogyakarta. And thank you for greeting our current rector, Bapak Dr. Gregorius Nur Hartanto. He's our current rector, and eventually here we have our former rector, Bapak Slamet Santoso Sarwarno. We do have our former dean, Ibu Nini or Mrs. Nini. We do have a vice dean for academic and some of the colleagues. That's Ibu Nini. And also, so we have many colleagues here. That's our vice dean for academics. So thank you for the support from my university and also for those from, I know from Manila or India who joined this event today. And the event basically will be recorded and can be accessed through the YouTube of the International Center for Research and Decision Support, or CIRAD, of the IFCU. So, well, it is a great pleasure for me to be here and also an honor for me to share knowledge and research experience in this research talk organized by the International Center for Research and Decision Support, or CIRAD, from the International Federation of Catholic University. Today, I would like to share knowledge and research experience in the field of appreciative inquiry. Can I share the, all right, is it there now, the screen? Yeah. All right, thank you. So something that I would like to share today, and hopefully maybe we can discuss further or explore further research in the future, is on the appreciative inquiry as a research, as well as engagement methods in the community. Well, my presentation will be divided into 3 sections. The first one is about the concept of appreciative inquiry, then about the implementation, which is based on a case study in Indonesia, and then the implementation, which is about how the final one will be about the implication to the research. So I will start with the concept of appreciative inquiry. Well, appreciative inquiry has been developed based on the study conducted by David Copperrider here. AI, or appreciative inquiry, first used in 1980 when David Copperrider, he was a doctoral student, did a study on physician leadership at the Cleveland Clinic. What he did at that time was he asked physician leaders at the clinic to tell stories of their biggest successes as well as their biggest failures within the clinic. But when Copperrider looked at the data, he was drawn only to the success story. He was amazed by the level of positive cooperation, innovation, and governance at the clinic. This was the time when the organizational member felt at the best, when the clinic was at the best, at the effective situation during that time. So then Copperrider decided to look more in depth the data exclusively in search of the positive to the system as well as to the people when they were most alive, effective, committed, and empowered. What he did then, he analyzed the data. The method of analysis that he used was to systematically and deliberately appreciate everything of positive value. Then he used the positive analysis to speculate the potential and possibility for the future. So history of past experience shared by the leader of the within the clinic then become a source of the positive possibility. So the history become the data, the source of the data to project the positive things in the future. He then, on his report, called this method as appreciative inquiry. So this was the first time, basically, appreciative inquiry was firstly used to analyze the organizational dynamics or change management. Well, from this story then, the main insight of appreciative inquiry is that every organization has something that works right. Things that give it life when it is most alive, effective, successful, and connected in healthy ways to its stakeholders and communities. AI here begins by identifying what is positive and connecting to it in a ways that heighten energy, the vision, and the action for change. Appreciative inquiry here basically over switching in the mindset from focusing on the problems into what the best that the organization has. Okay, let's see now. When we concentrate enormous resources on correcting problems within the organization, when we use this approach continually and over a long period of time, this can lead to a negative culture without we realize it. If we combine this negative culture with all the challenges that we face today, it could be easy for us to be convinced that, hey, we have too many problems to overcome. And then even further, without we realize it, we slip into a situation, sense of hopelessness. How if we flip the coin? Flip or switch our mindset now. Well, basically, we can see that we have so much to be excited about. We are in the most dynamic and most influential business of our time. We ought to be excited, motivated, and energized. By doing this, basically, we can kill negative self-talk and celebrate our successes. If we focus on what we do right and apply the lessons to what we do wrong, we can solve our problem at the same time, re-energize the organization at the same time. So here, switching the mindset. Well, we cannot ignore problems, of course. Even in the organization, we always face the problems. But here, we just need to approach them from the other side. So now we look at the concept itself. If we look at word by word, appreciative inquiry, appreciate, to value, recognize the best in people or the world around us, are from the past, present strength that we have, successes and potential, or to perceive those things that give life to living system. That's appreciate. Inquiry, to explore and discover, to ask questions, to be open to seeing new potential and possibilities. These are the meaning of the words that construct or build appreciative inquiry, appreciate and inquiry. How about the appreciative inquiry as a method here? Well, appreciative inquiry is a response to the centrality of problem solving in managerial work, which is very common, and the classical action research approach to organizational inquiry and change. AI here suggests that what people call problems can be addressed by looking forward towards a dream of future rather than by looking backward toward what is damaged and next fixing. So again, switching the mindset. So now I will move to try to compare these two approaches, problem-solving managerial and appreciative inquiry. Problem-solving managerial, the basic assumption is that organizing is a problem to be solved. Organization always face problems any days, anytime. And the task of improvement here within the organization is to find a solution to the problem, removing the problem. So what they do, actually identifying the key problems, the deficiencies. What are the causes here? What are alternatives for the solution? And then developing an action plan. That's a problem-solving managerial. Focus on the problem. How about the appreciative inquiry? The basic assumption is that organization is a mystery, infinite capacity to be embraced. There are many hidden positive capacities within the organization, within the organizational members. So this is an approach for change management, which emphasizes more on strengthening positive qualities of the organization rather than trying to fix negative qualities of the organization. So we can see the difference here. These are the step-by-step models of each of them. Problem solving focus on fixing the organization. Appreciative inquiry, no. Building on what is working, what we have today, we need to embrace and then reworking on what the best thing that we have within the organization. So we can see the difference here. And we focus on the appreciative inquiry today as a research method. At the same time, basically, we use it as the approach to engage with the community or our research participants. So then I will start with the principle of appreciative inquiry. There are 5 principles here. The principles become the basis when we conduct the appreciative inquiry. The first principle is that constructive approach of appreciative inquiry. This approach is based on the assumption that organizations are socially constructed phenomena which have no tangible reality, Only through dialogue, language, discourse of routine interactions, then the organizational members themselves co-construct their organization. People or organizational members basically create their own realities through dialogue and enactment. So here, The purpose of inquiry then, to stimulate new ideas, stories, images that create new possibility for action to construct the organization. That's the first principle. Now we move to the second one, the principle of simultaneity. This principle proposes that change occurs the moment people ask a question. So if suddenly now people are so quiet and suddenly somebody asks a question within the forum, basically you create a change itself. So the moment you ask a question, basically you initiate the change itself. Well, this principle suggests that inquiry and change are not separate moments, but are simultaneous. Inquiry is intervention and perhaps the most effective way to transformation, to the change itself. The seeds of change are the things that people think and talk about, that we talk about something. The things that people discover and learn, the things that inform dialogue and inspire image of the future. That's the seed or sources of the change. Well, basically, they are implicit in the very first questions asked. So when you ask a question, basically, you create the initiation of the change. So then one of the most impactful things as agent management change, for instance, is basically how to articulate the questions, because the questions set at the base or stage for what is found and what is discovered. So that's the second principle. Now we move to the third one, poetic principle. Poetic, like a poet. This principle proposes that organizational life, our life, is expressed in the stories that people tell each other every day. Our realities is basically constructed by stories. And the story of the organization is constantly being co-authored by their members. Organizational life is expressed as a narrative, grand story, and co-authored by various individuals or members. The story of our university, for instance, basically is expressed by a story of the people, of the member of the university. The story of IFCU, the life of IFCU, for instance, our International Federation Catholic University, are constructed by our story, actually, by this event, for instance. So each person here has a different story. How many people here? 16 people. Each of us has our own story. And like a poet, which carefully choosing words to evoke emotions, sentiments, understanding, the same as in the organization. Organizational members choose their word. I choose my own word. I choose my language. I choose my topic and metaphors, for instance, to describe and give meanings to the organization. That's the principle of appreciative inquiry, that we create our grand stories. We create a narrative about the organization. The fourth one is anticipatory principle. Anticipatory principle. Well, the most important resource for generating constructive organizational change or improvement basically is a collective imagination and discourse about the future as expressed by its member. So the future of our association, our IFCU, for instance, is basically constructed by the members themselves. It is the image of the future, what we want to be in the future, that guides the current behavior of the person and the organization. Organizational image of the future are created and occur within the conversation among organizational members. So what we want to do, the future of the organization, basically occurs when we talk about it, when we develop conversation about it. So that's the fourth principle. And we will see how this principle implemented later on when I explain about the implementation. The fifth principle is the positive principle. This principle proposes that positive questions lead to positive change. So if you ask something positively, basically you lead that person to do something in a positive way. This is different from the problem solving because people will ask, what's your problem? Then it leads to something sad or negative things. Positive questions brings out the best to the people, inspire positive actions, and create possibilities for positive future. Positive view here can be, it doesn't have to be really the best good one. It can be excitement, inspiration, solidarity, or maybe we feel the feeling of joy. Hey, we can create something new. Openness, willing to listen to others. Oh, those are examples of positive things within the organization. And appreciative inquiry here is based on the simple assumption that every organization has something that works well, and these become a strength that can be a starting point for creating positive change. So these 5 principles will be the base for conducting appreciative inquiry and also become the spirit of appreciative inquiry itself. Now I will explain then how we use it now, how we implement the appreciative inquiry. To explain how we can use AI or appreciative inquiry, maybe I use AI or appreciative inquiry interchangeably as a research as well as engagement method. I use a case study of the development of micro hydro power plant in 3 villages in Yogyakarta, my hometown, in Indonesia. This development project is basically part of the Indonesian government development project to achieve the target of renewable energy resources, as well as to transform the community into renewable energy-based community. So we can see here, there is the aims or goals to change the community, to transform the community into renewable energy-based community. That's the reason why I use this case study, as a way to explain how then we can use appreciative inquiry as a method at the same time as the way to engage with the community. On the pictures here, there are 3 micro hydropower plants in Indonesia where we did or conducted the research. And these are characteristic of rural communities in Indonesia with the collectivism, patriarchal system, traditional system. I will not go into details on this. And they mostly rely on tradition, oral tradition, rather than written tradition. Those are the pictures of them. And for this study, we involved 14 groups. When we conducted this study, we conducted for 2 years and in partnership with one university in the UK, Huddersfield University, and it was funded by British Council at that time. Basically, we did not create certain groups. What we did, we blend into community groups that have been established in the community. So we suggest for those who would like to use appreciative inquiry, which I believe this is very common in a practice, that basically we follow the community groups there. And they consist of women's group, male groups, farmer groups, youth groups. So we follow we engage with the community groups in the 3 villages basically. So how then we do it? How we did it at that time? This is the appreciative inquiry that basically consists of the 4D cycle, 4Ds. D stands for discovery, dream, design, and destiny. In the middle here, we can see affirmative topic choice, or we call it as a positive core, as here is at the heart of AI process. The 4D cycle here is the process that allow us as a researcher or maybe the agent of change management to access and mobilize the positive vibes within the community. In this respect then, the community's positive core is the beginning of the process as well as the end of the inquiry itself. So that's become the center here. We think about the positive things about the community. So to explain each phase or stage, I will move to the next slide. I will explain every phase based on what we did during our research. Now, look at the first phase, discovery. discovery. So in this phase, we aim to explore what communities have and experience best in conducting development program initiated by the government, because the case study is basically about the renewable energy in the micro hydro project, which was initiated or installed by the government. So we asked them what their best experience in engaging into this new technology. This includes also identifying area of strength for the community, factors that empower it. So everything, the positive things about the energy, the renewable energy, about the technology itself. This is the data collection phase of the 4D cycle. This is the main base of the whole cycle of the appreciative inquiry. And the focus here is on gathering exciting stories. The storytelling here, we use the storytelling approach in an appreciative inquiry. Well, basically what we did at that time, we asked the community member to tell the story as well as listen to other story. This kind of approach is in line with the oral culture. And somehow this storytelling approach motivates them to engage more in the topic and helps them to uncover their experience. So this is different from, like a formal discussion, question and answer approach, like an interview. So really, basically, we just ask them, hey, tell me the story, your experience. The situation was very exciting. Everybody so excited to tell their story. They were laughing, commenting to each other. So the situation is basically, we try to do it as natural as possible instead of conducting like, very structured focus group discussion. So we adjusted into, their daily life or the way they usually build a dialogue or conversation. So we use storytelling here. Then the story that they share each other became narrative that helped them to identify the strength of the community as well as the main area that can be developed for success. So we know their strength, and also without realizing, actually we know, oh, this is the part that we can develop further actually. Detailed stories expressed by them help them become more optimistic as they become aware about their past and their current accomplishment. Without they realize it, then they say, aha, we did so many accomplishments, we did so many achievements, then they became so optimistic there. So this is important as a basic for constructing a better future. So the stories here become inspiration for communities, as well as create hopes and collective energy among them. How we did this? How we do this kind of process? Well, the stories basically were collected through community group discussion, through conversation and dialogue, like I mentioned before. They tell story one another and commented each other. Individual appreciation then becomes collective appreciation. Individual will, without they realize it, evolved into group will. An individual vision become a cooperative and shared vision for the community. So from their story, basically they create positive maps about themselves, about the villages that show their hopes, needs, strength, relationship, affiliation, and other assets of the community. So this become the output of the first phase, positive maps of the community. Well, at that time, we also did interview with key actors, but basically it was aimed to get in-depth data. So what happens next? This is the second phase, the dream phase. As we got the picture, positive maps of the community, then we asked them to, hey, what do you want to do next? So the dream phase focuses on creating a vision to the future, but well, it's not actual design or implementation. Basically, we ask them, we encourage them to dream or create a vision of what they want to be, of what the village could be in the future. This means identifying new possibility or the community might function better and deliver the development project. The use of positive questions in the discovery phase focus on the possible rather than the problems they have. So, a positive nuance or atmosphere. Well, at that time, it wasn't that easy, to ask them to share their dreams, to, ask them to tell us what they want to be in the future, as they tend to live in the current or present state, as they feel already satisfied or enough with what they have right now. So, but we kept trying to encourage them by asking a simple questions. For instance, we asked them, hey, what do you want to do if, let's say, now we have street lamps along our village road access? Because what happened, before they have renewable energy, there was no electricity connected to street lamps. So basically, the access road to the village was very dark. No street lamps or lights at all. But because of the renewable energy, the micro hydropower plant, there was electricity that can electrolyte. Then they have basically road access with street lights and everything. So then people can just, can walk easily. So then they start to share what they want to do in the future. One of them said like this, well, now I will not be afraid to walk in the night because now the village road access is not dark anymore. I will not be afraid, for instance, to step on the snake, snake, because in the village there are many wild animals. So that's, simple questions, daily, ask them to share their daily experience. And then as the conversation went through, almost everybody shared what they want to do in the future, telling their dreams. I remember one of the women wanted to be involved since the beginning of the installation of the micro hydropower plants, since mostly only a male or men who were involved. She argued that at the end, the women at home who will mostly access the electricity from the micro hydropower plant. Because if something goes wrong, at least I can understand what the problem is. And then others said also, well, because of the street lamps, then I can go to the market in the evening. They want to open their shop until 8 p.m. and so on and so on and so on. So they start to share their dreams. As the vision is developed, it should be shared using creative methods that are accepted by the community here, such as a visual image, or maybe ask them to dance or visualize into the drama to describe their future. Well, in our study, community's dreams were drawn as a process diagram. So basically in this stage, we really, let them to decide how they will visualize their dreams, which one is more acceptable and make them more comfortable to share their dreams. Creative and locally accepted methods here are preferred rather than a list of dreams created. So the aims or the output of the second phase is not list of the dream, no. But the process here aims to visualize the dream as they share it to the others. And then they thought they realized it. Actually, there was a process to internalize the dream and become their inspiration. So it's not about the list, but visualizing and internalize, then become their inspiration. So that's the second phase. Now we move to the third one, the design phase. This is about moving a vision into a plan. This phase focuses on designing the social, administration, infrastructure, and so on, basically to make the dream phase possible. So at that time, then we asked them, hey, so you have so many dreams here. What you want to do? Some of them said, well, ma'am, I want to have training. I want to build, a new shop. I need this, I need that. So they start to articulate the plan, basically. Even like the street lamps, they already have street lamps on their access road in the village. Then they realize, hey, how if we need to buy a new lamp here? Who will give a funding? We need, money. We need a financial support to make, these facilities run well. So then they initiate a kind of procedures or process or, agreement, how they collect the money, how they implement or, manage their financial plan, for instance. So this includes designing social norms, value, policies, methods, and so on to realize the vision. The critical aspect here actually not the plan itself, but is about how all parts of the system, let's say local leaders, elderly people, women's group, the young generation, for instance, are represented in the design phase. It is about how to make everybody get involved, participate. It's about participatory and involvement. So then this can create ownership toward the plan itself. There are three main questions here. What, who, and how to realize the dream. What we need to do. Who should be in charge? Who should be involved? How will we do it? How about the timeline and so on and so on? So this is the third phase. How about the final one, the destiny delivery? This phase embodies both the conclusion of discovery, dream and design phases, and the beginning of an ongoing commitment to achieve their future goals. So basically they are invited to free discussion. Hey, what can you contribute? Women's group, what you can contribute? What is your commitment? How about the young generation? The group of the farmer, for instance, what you can contribute? How will you do it, and so on. So they discuss what they can and will do to contribute to the realization of their dreams. Their conclusions then commit them to act as the basis. So in the final one here is basically building commitment by providing or by contribute something. So these are four phases or the cycle that we did or when we need or we want to implement appreciative inquiry. What we can learn here basically. Well, through an inquiry process, communities can explore what they want to do based on the high moment of where they have been, not based on what the problem that they have. This approach has led community to move beyond traditional problem-centered approach. And using this perspective, researcher like I myself recognize that conversational processes, the storytelling processes, become a powerful, creative sources of energy, renewable, and change for communities. Through conversation, through the storytelling, there were growing positive supports among communities to produce change through appreciation. And also, this approach allows them to identify and build on their past achievement and strengths, form agreement around the shared vision of the future, and build strategies and partnership to achieve their vision. What are next? Well, focusing positive things rather than problems has improved communities' confidence. Hey, we have some achievement before, accomplishment before, so then we can dream, develop, propose, design, deliver the plan to achieve their dreams. So this builds confidence among them. Storytelling approach has positive impacts as, so they feel confident as well to engage more in the issue rather than, like a Q&A discussion, in-depth interview, but storytelling, let them tell the story using their own language. Appreciative inquiry has become a change communication process by creating conversation of meaning, understanding among them. With a common dream in place, community are asked to develop concrete proposal. The design here is a crucial stage in sustaining positive change and responding to the organization positive past. Well, what next? In the phase 4, which is the delivery or destiny phase, communities act on their proposed design, establishing roles, responsibility, developing strategies, creating institutional connection, maybe build partnership, and mobilizing resources to achieve their dreams. This phase somehow has inspired them to further articulate their proposed design into action plan. And what else? Somehow this method is considered as inclusive model for community engagement. Why? Because marginalized voices like voices from women are more likely to be heard and received. Because this method was not too complicated. This method is not too difficult for everybody in the village to join and participate. Because of the storytelling approach, for instance, by telling experience. I believe even everybody can tell the story using their own language. That's why it is considered as inclusive model. Well, from my explanation, seems everything sounds so easy or positive, but yeah, still there are challenges. Well, asking people to tell stories is not that easy. The challenge here is about building trust. So first thing that we need to consider or be aware of, we need to build trust. We cannot just, enter the community and ask, hey, could you please tell the story, the best thing that you have? No. In the collective communities, because we enter a collective community, the role of leaders are very important. So what we did, basically, we need to approach the leaders first. As we get agreement or understanding with the leader, then we can start enter the community. This is just an example. Or we did in Bali last year. We need to meet the elderly people there to gain trust. And then because of that, then usually member of community will follow what the leader suggests. So trust is very important. Traditional value become another challenge because for them, now is better rather than, about the future. They think about now and in the past, the history. They feel content with sufficient today. It's enough. We live in the present time. We should not be greedy about the future. Another one, a fear of being perceived as different from their groups. These avoid an individual share this experience. They tend to be quiet because they don't want to be different from others. Meanwhile, in the appreciative inquiry, it is important for everybody to tell the story. Even more, there is possible that dominant role of communities leaders in a collective culture, and also difficult to break the conservative mindset. Meanwhile, appreciative inquiry is about innovating new ideas, image, future. So these are challenges that we need to be aware of when it comes to the appreciative inquiry. Now the last section is about research implication. What we can propose here, there are 6 research implications. The first one, this relates to how we see the organization. This study implies the importance of switching from perspective to switch from the mission perspective, which focuses on problem-solving approach, into the living human system perspective of organization. We need to switch a perspective from seeing organization, seeing a village as a container of the community, a container of organizational members, into the living human system perspective, that they are alive, they are a living system there. So that's the first implication. The second one, AI views the organization as socially constructed realities and consists of shared belief of organizational members. There is a construction process here. And with adaptation, AI basically is a culturally sensitive method to use as a research as well as engagement method with rural communities who mostly, let's say, rely on oral tradition, short storytelling tradition, for instance. This approach then put community as actors of change management. Because they visualize their dream, they develop what they can do, what they can contribute, so they become the actors rather than become the object of the development or the change management. The conversational approach has empowered all communities members to understand what best things they have, kind of reflective methods to make them realize, which then motivate them to imagine their future and then help them to develop design and deliver to achieve their future state. In other words, the conversational approach built kind of confidence to engage into the issue, even to decide what I want to be in the future. So then also, as I mentioned before, they become the change management agent. The most important forces for change are new ideas, innovation. Appreciative inquiry is more likely to create new ideas, images, and approaches that will lead to social innovation. So these are my last slides in terms of explaining the appreciative inquiry. And these are references that I used in conducting this study. So thank you, and I do hope that this can provide ideas or inspiration how to conduct research, which also at the same time can encourage the participant of the study, in my case, the community, to build their own future, to be more empowered instead of become the object of our study. I'm very welcome to any comments or questions from the audience. Thank you.